So what's Douglas Murray's role in all this?
Douglas Murray is he's actually Scottish. He's an Etonian who then went to Oxford. He's written a number of really great books. I think he's one of these awful people who wrote like an amazing intellectual book at the age of 16 or something horrible like that. People like him exist to make the rest of us just feel like shit. He's a really, really bright guy, funny guy. Opposite side of the political spectrum to me. He is a conservative. But he speaks so eloquently and so courageously about the ill effects of this woke culture, which really it gets into everything. People's attitude to life, the way they try to meet people. I'm talking to young people all the time now, and they're scared of dating. They're scared of asking girls out. Girls are scared of talking to guys, and it's really damaged our interhuman relationships. We're not robust. We think everything is dangerous. We think everything is going to have some awful consequence. We're going to be called out and cancelled at any moment. There's no fun for these kids. There's no chance for them to just live and just live a normal life. And one of the things that Douglas recommends when he's talking, particularly to young people, and I agree with it 100%, is don't wait for there to be a better time. Just live your life now. Just take the risk, do the thing, get on with it, living your life. Because as I said before, this woke thing has become a death cult to the extent it's anti-life, it's anti-health, it's anti-virulence. It's like, do we want to go out and live and be humans, or are we just ashamed and think we're a terrible mistake and should go back into the void? That's what I think that's why I say the path of woke really is to gulags and genocide, because it's an anti-human movement.
And Nietzsche said, live your life like a work of art. Look at how much effort people put into works of art. If you put that much effort into your life, how the quality would improve.
100%.
All right, so you kind of describe like an effeminization.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that symptomatic then of the decline of every empire? There's a phase of effeminization.
The only person I've heard say that apart from you is Douglas Murray. Apparently he didn't describe it as feminization. He said there's what do you call it? An androgyny, a sort of a meeting in the middle, and there becomes an obsession with what is it called? I'm going to say Aphrodite, hermaphroditism. Hermaphrodite is Hermes and Aphrodite being forced together as a punishment. It was one of the punishments of the gods. So you had Hermes, he's also Thoth, very, very virile. He's a messenger. He transgresses boundaries. Aphrodite, goddess of love. And she did something awful. I think it was a sexual assault. And her punishment was to be literally in a codependent fusion, much like Harry and Meghan. So that there would be like one person. Don't know why Hermes got punished for her mistake. And so then you had Hermaphrodite. And so there is this obsession with meeting in the middle, which it's valuable. Look at David Bowie, who was androgynous and he played with these roles. Loads of musicians and artists have. It's a good thing. We should have a bit of social construct fluidity. That's healthy. You should have chaos and you should have order. We need it to stay sane in this crazy world. But when we become rigidly obsessed with meeting in the middle, and that's the only valid thing to do, so androgyny is the only way to be inoffensive and free from any crimes, what happens to polarity? Men can't be men and women can't be women. That's criminalized now. And operating from a polarized end of the spectrum is now not au fait. It's not trendy. So women, I have a majority women following, like 85% of my following is women, constantly complaining that there's no men left. And I'm like, well, all the men have been called out, and the ones who are left are terrified that they're going to do something or say something that's going to get them into a terrible amount of trouble. The effects of that, testosterone levels are declining, people are sat at home consuming more porn and wanking more, and they're just not having as much sex. Even young people they're not dating as much. They're not they're not even bothering. The research I read recently from the coddling of the American mind was they're not even bothering to get their driving license. Do you remember when we were growing up? You wanted that driving license.
Yeah.
You wanted to be the one who could drive your mate somewhere.
I needed to get to my girlfriend's house in Newton Lee Willows.
Right, exactly. Let me get in that car so I can go and get laid. I mean, and there was nothing. Just think how quickly that's gone. So they don't bother. They don't want to leave home. We all wanted to leave home. Why? So we could party without being told off. You wanted that freedom. You wanted to go and travel and be in the world. But now they're indoctrinated into another mindset. The world isn't safe. It's dangerous out there. You know, there's so many things that could go wrong. You're safer at home. Stay at home. And so, testosterone levels are plummeting. Sexual relationships are plummeting. And people are really struggling to stay in that masculine-feminine polarity because it's kind of criminalized now. But yes, it is the sign of a declining
Well, following
society.
up then on that, Adam Smith, I think he said that a hungry nation will have like a warrior spirit, and it will see all these other more opulent nations, and it'll get to a point where that warrior spirit will rise up, and then they will conquer the opulent nation. But then, as they get fat on the spoils, they become the opulent nation, and then they fall into traits that they lose their warrior spirit, and they go into decadence and all this other stuff, and the cycle just repeats and repeats all over the world.
Soft times creates hard men, and
So does that mean the West, the more hungrier countries are looking at us, perhaps? And
oh yeah, they're called China, Iran, and Russia, and they are greedily licking their lips. There's a meme that's gone viral on TikTok. I'll send it to you afterwards, which is it shows you a Russian military recruitment advert, and that's 30 seconds, and then it plays an American military recruitment advert right afterwards. The Russian military advert, it's black and white. There's a man's voice over the top. I don't speak Russian, but it sounds like he's saying, join the army today and go out into the world and be a real man and do the, parachute behind enemy lines and they're shooting and all the rest of it. And it looks like a video game. Beautiful, well-produced, intense music, ultra-masculine. American military recruitment video is so woke, it's unwatchable. It's a cartoon of a girl saying about how she chose to join the military and because she grew up in both of her mothers married, she was raised by lesbians, and she's transgender, and that's their recruitment video. I don't know if you saw the CIA woke video. It's the same thing. They're using CIA recruitment videos that use woke terminology.
I read something that said that for the first time in recent years, there's been not enough men of physicality that qualifies for the military in America, so they've had to drop the standards to get more people. And a couple of years ago, I was in Turkey, and I was at the airport. So I'm in the line with the Brits coming home, and the next line over was the Russians. And I looked over at the Russians, I looked over at the Brits, and those guys were like, they all looked like soldiers. They were in such good shape. Let's just say I looked at the Brits, they looked a little bit out of shape.
A little bit chubbier. Kebabs and beers does something different to a man's body.
So there's definitely, that if you go back hundreds of years, that line of people could easily have conquered this line of people.
Oh, yeah.
But doesn't mutually assured destruction now prevent that from happening?
I'm not sure that we shouldn't be considering the state of our nation and the state of the physicality of the people in our nation, because yes, mutually assured destruction is a thing, but there are multiple levels of conflict and force that can be used now, and you do have proxy wars that get fought. So if it was all out war, yes, it would be fought by machines that were being run by fat British men who don't have to worry about the fact they can't do a push-up because they're just wearing virtual reality goggles and clicking a mouse. Most likely, most of it would be settled that way if it was all out war. But there are still other areas. I mean, if it had popped off in the Ukraine, which it nearly did, and we definitely would have backed Ukraine because Boris has just signed his trade agreement with them just last November gone. That couldn't have been all out war. We couldn't have nuked. I mean, there's just no way. So that would have been a physical confrontation. So I think realistically, it doesn't really matter what the general population is like, but you are our future wars, if I was preparing for our future wars, and I think there's evidence of this, there'll be a big focus not just on tech but on special forces units. As long as you can still muster, 500 to 600 men of a good but they will be the most exceptional that you see. But no, your point about Russian cues and English cues is well taken. They've all got the shaved heads as well. And they talk and stand like men.
Yeah.
Whereas our lot is like maybe a little less. British armies, best small army in the world, still.